What's up, everybody? What's up? It's your boy Sanchez 405 coming at you. It's on the Warpath. If you do, make sure you click that subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notifications anytime there's new content posted. And as always, like, comment, and share this video out because we talk Washington Commanders. Yes, we're getting it right all the time. And y'all know on Wednesdays and or Thursdays, we do the new thing. It's called Chain of Command. We bring somebody in from the outside, experts in the field, and I bring in a good friend who this man can get anybody in the DC media to come and talk to him, and he puts them at ease all the time. So this time he's on the opposite side. He is on the burner this time around, as I have to pause the sound in the background. But I bring on a good friend of the program, Big Doug. What's up, Doug? How you doing, brother?
Corey, always good to be on with you, my friend.
Hey, it's good to have you on here. Appreciate you doing this, brother. And man, you have been through some fun times, some fun interactions that you've had with the media, former players and everything. And I always tell people this because I don't tell people I'm going to go into this, but just talk about how you got started. And how has your Big Douglas show been built throughout this last year or so? Just talk about it and some of the guests you've had on.
Sure, I'm a COVID guy, I guess, right? That's what we should call it,
right?
So my brother and I spent an hour every day on his way to work, kind of talking skins at the time, and he was like, "You ought to do that," and I was like, "Well, I'll do it if you do it." And he was like, "Well, I'm not going to do it." And I said, "Well, nobody wants to listen to me ramble for a half hour, 45 minutes. And he said, "Well, why don't you try to get guests on?" And so we did, and I don't know how it worked, but I asked nicely, and folks that come on, and we've been real blessed. So made some great friendships along the way, like yourself. And I don't know, we've had most all of them on. Pete Haley, not you. I got my eyes on you.
Pete, I think we both have a bone to pick with Pete. Pete, I sent him a message on Instagram, and I actually was at the big opening event back at FedEx Field, and I said, "Hey, you just left me on red," and he's like, "Oh, well, we're gonna have to change that." So, but I know he is on Ref the District tonight at 7:30. So shout out to those guys over there. So absolutely. Pete, this might be your time to make it. But Doug, you have just an ease, a warmth about you, man, that just and you get I think you even get some you get a smile out of Ben standing. And I feel like sometimes that's hard to get on times, but
Ben's a serious guy, there's no doubt.
He is, but man, we dive into it and we talk about some news coming out over the weekend. Charley Taylor, number 42, passes away, age of 80. This guy still leads the team in total in touchdowns and in receiving touchdowns, and not just the body of work as a player, but as a coach as well. You think about some of these players that he played with and coach. Bobby Taylor, Jerry Smith, Bobby Mitchell, and Jerry Smith. These guys that he played with, and then Art Monk, Gary Clark, Ricky Sanders, Alvin Garrett, all these cats. So he basically had his mark for 3 decades in Washington. Of course, Norv Turner didn't return him. I guess we can mark that off on Scott Turner's to-do list, right? But just talk about what you know about Charley Taylor and kind of what you remember about him, if you remember some of the highlights you may have seen from him.
Well, it feels like Charley kind of set the table for the Redskin receiving that we remember, that I remember. I'm old, but I'm not old enough to remember Charley. But my understanding from talking to guys like Doc that did, a competitor of the highest order. And like I said, I don't know a two-ton about the man, but his records it says it all, right? I mean, how many games were they playing back there? And his records still stand. So, give him credit. And that was an era when they were having to worry about more than just playing football. you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the man is worthy of respect, no doubt about it.
Yeah, 8 Pro Bowls. I think he led the league in receptions 2 years during this time. So I mean, this guy, a Hall of Famer in the class of 1984. My gosh, man, just everything, class, and he was that grinder for Joe Gibbs too as a coach. Shout out to Marcus, man. Appreciate you promoting us on your sports group. Well, no, I think I'm in that group too. So we appreciate you on Facebook. Thanks so much. And we move from the past and we talk more about the future. And Ron has pulled the biggest Teddy Roosevelt move I have seen in a long time. He is carrying a big stick, but he's not speaking softly. He is swinging it home. I think this could ensue panic, but the quarterback situation, that's what I'm going to get into with you right here. Do you think that's coming out of a space of panic? Because I feel like everything that he's talking about should have been done last off season, and now you've kind of pigeonholed yourself into maybe making a rash decision and selling the farm too late. What says you on that one?
Well, here's what confuses me, and I said this a couple of days ago.
Mm-hmm.
What did he get? Like, how does it behoove him to come out and say, we're going to take a big swing at quarterback? I mean, what are the big swings? Realistically, Russell Wilson, I mean, I don't know. You think he's leaving Seattle? Less than 50%. Aaron Rodgers, okay, maybe. Aaron makes me nervous because if he comes here and wins a Super Bowl next year and he'd be capable of doing something like that, he may very well retire. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, with Russell, at least you feel like you got 5-6 years with him just because that's a dude that probably wants multiple Super Bowls if he can get them. And then the other one is Deshawn Watson. And I don't know. Last year we got told it was going to be in February. Now we're told it's in April. So I guess what I'm asking is, what did Ron gain by saying they're going to take a big swing at quarterback, other than to have to settle the fan base down when it's Trubisky?
And that's a fact. I think to grab media attention because Washington is in the news like they usually are for off-season, off-field things. And I mean, yeah, to your point, he has raised the expectations up to this fan base. Like, you cannot mess this up, and you won't mess it up. And when I think of big swing, I think of the only clean, and he still has a little bit of baggage with who his wife is Russell Wilson, and he's still coming off a hand injury. I don't think there's enough detox in Aaron Rodgers' wheelhouse to even come to watch. I don't think he can go on any detox to kind of deal with it. And then Deshaun Watson, I thought there's no denying this man's talent. Let's get that straight. Sure. But with the congressional investigations, them coming after Dan for situations that may be very similar, parallel to what Deshaun Watson is going through, it just doesn't make sense because you're in the news for the wrong reason. And right now, Washington needs a win in the press. They really do, because it seems like the Commanders are commanding every bad publicity there is.
That's what they do.
Yeah, that's what they do. And then you talk about this, Jimmy Garoppolo. Washington could, what was the phrasing on that article? Could validate sending a first-round pick to San Francisco for
that's
Jimmy G. But the fact that they put that out there, one, it makes Washington look like fools. Like, it's just like, well, Washington's dumb. Who's dumb enough to go out here and maybe even kick the tires on this? Washington, because coach is speaking with a big mouth. You said realistically, you're thinking maybe a Trubisky along those lines.
Well, we know we know they were interested in him at the trade deadline this last season,
right?
And weren't interested in giving up whatever assets it took. The other thing about this, right, is they've also told Taylor Heinicke, we know you ain't it either, which I'm not sure why. What is that? Why was that necessary, right?
Right.
I don't see how he wins in any of this. And again, to have it be Trubisky or Jimmy G, and again, remember the whole point of Jimmy G is that you don't have to give up your first round draft pick. So any article that you ever see saying they're going to give up a first for Jimmy G, that's somebody's agent trying to drum up the bargain, right? Because that's the point. Right. I mean, really, I think they'd like to give. They did Jimmy G route. I heard 2/3 would be nice.
Yeah. So I'll ask you this too, Doug. Doug, you're the big GM, and you don't throw a big stick out there, but you pick the quarterback. Who is Doug's day one starter or a group of QBs? Who's going to be in your QB room come August?
Well, I'm definitely giving up anything that Seattle wants in a trade for Russell Wilson. And when I say anything, I mean anything. There's not a player on the roster that Seattle can't have as part of a package. None of them. It's just
pause. You said anybody.
There's not a player on the roster that can't be had in a Russell Wilson trade. I love Chase Young. How many games realistically is he worth a year?
Fact.
That's true. 2, 3. Yeah. Terry McLaurin, as much as we love him, again, what's he? How many games is he worth? I can tell you how many games Russell Wilson's worth. And you cannot, the way the NFL is shaped, you cannot win championships without a Russell Wilson. This day gone by when you could have a stacked roster and a Trent Dilfer. Come on, that ain't it. And so listen, I would prefer not to get rid of Chase Young. I would prefer not to lose Terry McLaurin. But if they called tomorrow and said, give me 2 1s and Terry McLaurin, well, let's go. I mean, I would do that right away.
I heard you.
Right away.
Any of these quarterbacks in the draft intrigue you?
Yeah, we have Matt Waldman on who does this stuff real in depth on one of the recent Scouting Notebook shows. He kind of got me interested in Corral a little bit. He, in his study, he said Pickett kind of fell apart at the end of games. That doesn't interest me. There's plenty of knocks to be had on Ritter, although I know plenty of people that are high on him. And if the medicals check, and gosh, this was months ago, Lawful Comfort was on the show and said Carson Strong is the guy if the medicals check out. You watch, you may not even get him in the second like a lot of people think if he goes to the combine and the medicals check out.
Got you, man. I know he has that degenerative knee condition that basically that kind of grinds on it. So, we've heard about his big arm, and maybe the knock on him is the lower competition he plays, and he could be the big steel statue that most people don't like in this NFL, but he could be the type of arm talent that you need to get to the playoffs and something that could be a good find for somebody here in these third, fourth rounds if he doesn't have a great combine. But yeah, I've seen him kind of move up the boards from a day 3 pick kind of to a day 2 now, down to a fringe first round pick. So it's going to be interesting to see how Carson Strong suits out there. And I noticed you did not mention the young man from Liberty in that situation. I have gone on the record and said there's a lot of panic in his game. I think he keeps his eyes downfield, but for what it's worth, I just think he may be the sexy pick of that everybody falls in love with. What have you seen out of Malik Willis that kind of steers you away from him? Well,
again, I surround myself with people that know a whole lot more than me because I'm not a scout by any means. But transferring makes me nervous. I understand the transfer portal is real and people use it, and it's not that, but transferring to such a lower competition, but he makes me nervous because most people think he needs 2 years. And so for me, I'd rather get a bridge guy for next year and then draft in 2022. When they say the class will be much stronger. Like I don't think that we have to panic ourselves into drafting at 11 just for the sake of, well, I told the fit, right? And this is another fit problem with what Ron does. So now I got to draft 11 because we didn't get anything in free agency, and I told the fan base that I was going to, swing the fences here. Now, frankly, I would have preferred they just traded up for Fields and Matt Jones last year. that to me was the move instead of taking a linebacker. But 2020 and all.
Oh no, I agree with you 110% there. I was like, just trade up for Fields, and you could make an excuse because it just seems like that sometimes Ron can tend to make an excuse about situations going on with the team, right? You could justify a 7-10 season with Justin Fields last year. You could justify that. You can't justify it because basically you made this on your own choice. These were your own options to go out, say, hey, we'll set on Ryan Fitzpatrick. He gets hurt. We're going to stick with Heineke, not do anything. And you end up 7-10. Kind of like what a few of us kind of thought going into this. Like, these weren't quarterbacks that were going to win you anything. They might put up sexy numbers at times.
I think they had planned on a 2-year plan with Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think that really jammed them up. I think they thought he was good enough to kick them down the can at least 2, maybe 3 years. Because remember, his problem was a lot of things. It was not injury. I mean, that's like the first major injury he's had in 4 or 5 years. So maybe that's the reason they didn't draft. But I would have done it last year because they were known with foresight that this wasn't a very good quarterback class.
Yeah, and I think his last big injury was probably when he was in Buffalo too. That was for Fitzpatrick. So that would you like you said, hindsight's 2020 in that respect. So now you move on here, and I personally think that we need to go out and get your boy from Georgia at 11 and solidify the linebacker room. I like Nakobe Dean. Congratulations to your dogs on their national
Very
championship.
exciting.
But I think Nakobe Dean, just the way he kind of commanded that defense, especially in the national championship game, his size, his speed, my cat getting in the way of this live. Who do you want to see at 11? Yeah. Who do you want to see at 11?
I like Nakobe Dean at 11 real well. If they think there's a plan by which Montez Sweat won't be here in a couple of years, and David Jeremiah's got him mocked at 5 right now to the Giants, but Trayvon Walker from Georgia is an animal. I mean, that's a guy that's 6'5", 275. He's going to run a 4.5, maybe 4 under 4.5. May not even be there. But yeah, to me, it would be that. I think if they don't go quarterback, my understanding is if the kid from Pitt is there at 11, they'll take him. I think they like the kid Malik Willis from Liberty. And then, you're looking at trade downs. I could see, they're not set at receiver. They could take like a Treylon Burke from Arkansas. I like my guy George Pickens from Georgia in the second better. I think he's got absolute number 1 wide receiver potential and just couldn't stay healthy. But that's kind of, again, I don't think we have to be set at anything at 11. They say take best player available, and I don't see why we wouldn't continue doing that.
There you go. This was something I didn't have written down, but now that you made me think about it.
Audible.
What went wrong with Jamin Davis?
Well, I don't know. That's a good question. And Coach really hadn't spoke to it. Again, another thing where it's like, appreciate the honesty. Not sure it was necessary. Like to say after 1 year without a whole lot of reps that Jamin Davis can't play middle linebacker anymore, even though you kind of went out on a limb and said he can play middle linebacker and drafted him at 17. You're running out of snaps for these guys because apparently you still got to go get a middle linebacker. So I'm not exactly sure what happened. And I guess I'm not sure that anything's finished yet either, right? Like, maybe a full off season with, again, he's one of these lumps of clay that the front office has been buying recently so they can mold them themselves. And I dig it. He's got it all. But they need to move him in a position that makes him be able to play a little bit more freely. And unfortunately, it's probably not middle linebacker. So, and the problem is, and this, when you in the modern NFL, when you're in nickel more than you're actually in your base 43, like there's only but so many snaps at outside linebacker, and they like Cole Holcomb. I like Cole Holcomb. So I don't know. It's a dilemma they got.
Yeah, that's the kicker right there. And a lot of people said he played out position, kind of like what you alluded to, and they kind of gave up on him all in the same breath. I don't know. We'll see what the future kind of leads to him. I think he's a good kid, and I think he can get it right. And he showed in flashes at times that he can be that linebacker that you drafted there last year. Let's go through some of these comments. What's up, Randy? Who was the first one to mention about Garoppolo for the first round pick? I don't remember who that was.
That was like one of those NBC Sports Edge or View Edges. Like I say, when I had JP Finley on the show, he was talking about a second and third is what he thought the bar was kind of set at for that.
Okay. And Randy said, if cleared, I'd much rather have Watson than Russ.
Agreed. That's fine. Me too.
And then the problem with Russ is no trade clause, and we're in competition with Steelers, Tampa Bay. I believe he'll go to one of those teams, draft in Trubisky and draft Malik Willis.
I think there's something to the fact that Russ gets to come in and be the face of a rebrand. I mean, how many times has that happen? And his wife, Sierra, is, apparently best buddies with the first lady. So maybe she'd like to be hobnobbing that way.
There we go. We'll 1-2 step and everything like that. But we'll 1-2 step to this then, since you talked about the rebrand. Oh, extreme ownership. You got to own your mistakes. That's, I think, everybody has learned it. You have to own your mistakes. Rather than say I'm wrong, I'm just going to say, Doug, I heard you loud and clear. The crest has been corrected. Thank the Lord.
I hear you loud and clear.
Like I don't know if it's like ironic or what. Did you have hashtags that say take command? Then you have Jason, and I think Jason's a good guy. I think sometimes he has to toe the line at some situations, and basically said, well, this is the year that they won the Super Bowl in, knowing that most places we talk about the 85 Bears, not the 86 championship year of the Bears and all that good stuff. What did you think of the crest, that glaring mistake, and then the correction of it 3 weeks later?
I actually liked the idea of the Roman numerals. I still haven't figured out how the NFL gets to have intellectual property rights over Roman numerals. I mean, I'm pretty sure they didn't come up with Roman numerals, so I'm not exactly sure how that works. But they fixed it. Jason Wright, I mean, I'm sure you heard the interview with Kevin, and said the nomenclature is for, well, that again, it's guys that don't get football, and I get Jason Wright played in the NFL, but he's been a Wall Street man for the last 20 years, and so and again, one of the interesting things Chris Baker said the other day, said, what I really found myself the last couple of weeks, Doug? And I said, what's that, Chris? And he said, switching from being a player to a fan. Like, we didn't get it the same way. And now that I'm a fan of the team, like, I want my team to go out and get a quarterback. And I want these nice things. And because I'm a fan, and I want to root and we want to win. So I wonder if, Jason just didn't get it, because you're right. It seems like something simple. Yeah. Now, that being said, they fixed it. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's just, for me, it was just the arrogance of kind of brushing it under the rug, and you're trying to get this rebrand right, and it seems like they've been swinging and missing a lot. Like I said, we've been Ryan Howarding it in the back end of his career pretty much, and we just keep on striking out. We're not even hitting the fences. I thought there was something simple. Who did not like how many eyes saw this beforehand internally?
That was my question. Didn't Doug Williams win the 81 Super Bowl MVP? I mean, or not 81, 87, but I mean, Theismann is there who won the 81. I mean, didn't one of these guys say, hey, by the way, like, but my understanding is the Super Bowl rings have the other number.
Huh.
So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just
I hope we get to adding more numbers, not worrying about the old numbers. Yeah, that's what I'd like.
Thank you. And how are you feeling about Commanders now?
I don't know if you knew this, but I've said for months, like, I don't care. It could have been
like me.
I was fine with Washington football team. To me, it could have stayed that. Like, really, I'm not sure what you gained by switching to Commanders, but it's fine with me. Red Wolves would have been fine with me. I would have been.
You would have been howling.
I would not have been howling. No. I would not have. The beard's close enough. I wouldn't have no howling, no wolf suits, none of that.
Oh man, come on, Dad. That would Fred Smoot would have been happy too to hear like, "Hey, yo, big dog, we got you howling out there."
Maybe if Fred asked nicely.
Yeah, I'm just like you, man. I was over the name change in August of 2020, and I just said, just bring me a name. I don't really care. This is still going to be my team. We've been with it through the ups, the downs, the Snyder, the scandal. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. Like it'd take more than a name change to probably do this to me. And, you know, both us being guys from Prince William County, just growing up right down the road from the team and everything. So, you know, that's my team. That's my area, you know, so I'm going to root for them either way. Interesting press conference today as we segue from that. Juan Castillo, who was the brilliant engineer of the 2011 Philadelphia Eagles defense, who replaced Sean McDermott as defense coordinator. You look back 2020 hindsight. He's going to be the new tight ends coach for Pete Hoener, who decided to retire after a long stay in the NFL. He's in his early 70s and everything. Molded. Basically, we can say he created Greg Olson's career and then put Logan Thomas on the right path. And what did you get a chance to see any of the clips from Juan Castillo's interview with the media today?
I did not, I must admit, but I will say this. I know Juan Castillo is, well, I'm sure. Funny thing about old coaches. Yeah. But, you know, interesting about Juan is, I mean, he was the offensive line coach for Andy Reid.
Yep.
So, I mean, this guy has pretty much coached both sides of the ball in almost every position imaginable. And another guy who, by all accounts, is a teacher. And that's kind of what Ron's been bringing in, our teachers more than coaches.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who put up with John Runyon for all those many years up there in Philadelphia. And, I mean, he predates. A lot of people don't realize this. He predates Andy Reid because he was part of Ray Rhodes' staff out there in Philadelphia. It was funny. I was the day before they made the announcement Hoener was retiring. I was watching a 98. Yeah, I was watching the 98 game at Philadelphia. And this game we lost 17-12. It was on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube right here, right? And Juan Castillo, I think it was right around the time he got hit by that delivery truck in Philadelphia. And I was like, oh, look, it's Juan Castillo. I know who that is. I said, I wonder what happened to Juan Castillo. Oh, he's in Washington now. But I like the move. It's a guy who has a lot of experience. And he's a good guy, respected across the league. And I think that Washington, I think you'll see a drop off in the tight ends, but he's got a good pool to work with. John Bates, who I called, and then Logan Thomas, and then he talked about Samus Reyes as well. I think these guys are still in good hands, even though he hasn't coached tight end specifically since 1997.
Didn't realize it had been that long.
Yeah, it's been a minute. So, yeah, what were you doing in 97? I think I was getting ready to go to kindergarten. So there we go.
In 97, I was not about to go into kindergarten.
But I like the move. And so they made some news came out earlier today that they are looking to talk to representatives from Deron Payne, Terry McLaurin, and if GM Doug doesn't trade these guys away, what deal gets done first? Deron Payne's, Terry McLaurin's, or do neither get done? With God knows how this franchise works at times.
I'd bet neither. Well, what? Let's do this. What incentive does Terry have to sign right now?
Oh, nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I would imagine you got at least one tag coming for Terry. That I would think, unless they just throw him $18-19 million and make him a top 5 wide receiver, maybe that's what they'll do. And I don't think I'd be mad at that necessarily. I'm just not sure. We're in one of these. It's always like, well, why did the team do that? Well, why would the player do that? You know what I mean? So, like, I'm just not sure what incentive Terry has to do it. And I will continue to say, I just don't understand how you could possibly pay all 4 defensive linemen.
Right.
You think he's going to want to sign like a contract that is so much behind Jonathan Allen? Like, don't you think he'd take that personally? Right. So
he already did. He already took it personally from John Allen anyway. So
yeah. and you already gave John $70 million. Can't turn around and give Payne another $65 million, can you? And then Montez Sweat needs a deal next year, and then Chase will need a deal in 2 years. So maybe you can work out a huge deal with Terry and give Daron Payne the franchise tag. The Daron Payne thing sounds more like smoke to me. And looking to see what the trade value will be. Like, oh no, we want him, we're going to sign him. But if you called about him, maybe we could work something out. Because I still don't see how he's not the odd man out there on the 3-man rotation.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head right there too, Doug. Because when I look at it, even if he is trade bait, he's on the 5th-year option right now. What team in their right mind is going to want to trade for this guy who basically went off on national television, one, right? So you can use that as a strike. But he's going to hit the market, or they're going to franchise him or Terry. I think if common sense prevails, they'll franchise Terry, and they can't franchise him at the same time as well. So I think he'd be the odd man out, and I agree with you. I think it's smoke, but I don't think anybody would want to trade with him. And if they do, they probably have to structure a contract before he even went out to said place. Like, if we're playing,
that's how it'd have to be. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's like with if this is a Russell Wilson situation, right, or even a Deshaun Watson situation, they're going to have the framework in place. Then the trade can get executed. Granted, if these guys waive their no trade clause. But Alex Wilson, shout out to you, bro. Thank you for super chat. He says Juan Castillo was coaching in Philly when B-Metch was playing there. That's right. Had tremendous praise for him. Yeah, I think he's going to be a good dude here. A lot of people talk about how he addressed it, but he's like Doug said, he's an old coach. He's been in the league for almost 30-some years. It's no big deal, y'all. He isn't. He's not a head coach. He's not the PR guy. He'd be all right. I think he just let him coach and get working with them cats. So we take a look at other free agents here, and I'm going to start out with the big one. Should he stay or should he go? Number 75, Brandon Sheriff. Man, I think the writing's on the wall for him, but should he stay? Should he go? What says you?
Well, anytime the GM comes out and says, "Hey, we tried to make him the most heavily paid position at his player or at his player at his position," then you know what it is. He was never coming back. I bet you he's on the Bengals next year. That seems like a good fit for him.
The Bengals, huh? I like that.
They got cash. They need offensive linemen, and I've seen people talking about how it's some big downgrade for us. I thought Wes Schweitzer played real well last year. Mm-hmm. And I don't mind him playing right guard at all. So I don't think he was ever coming back. It obviously wasn't about the money. They paid him a ton. Also, I think the Sheriff thing is worth looking at just from the standpoint of, I wonder if this isn't how more teams do it. When they gave him the franchise tags and people thought it was a whole lot of money. But if you do the math out over the 5 years that he got and then the 2 franchise tags, he's been here for 7 years then. And it's been at like right around $15 million a year, which is perfect for what he's at. So I wonder if more guys that have that 5th-year option aren't done that way.
Yeah, that is that's a good point there. Yeah, to see. So he's basically laid the framework out anyway. Even being he's been the guinea pig, and we'll see come free agency time where he's going to go. Like I said, the Bengals could be a good place. I wouldn't be too surprised if he wound up in LA. And the reason why I said that was he played with Sean McVay in that system. Those were the only 2 years that he started every single game, 15 and 16, when McVay was the offensive coordinator. Maybe there's something there to that. And, you find a revitalization out there in LA. Look at Matt Stafford, your Georgia Bulldog, and Andrew Whitworth, who probably is going to hang it up. So there could be a future out there with him. I wouldn't hold LA out on that one. DeAndre Carter was the biggest surprise of last season, I think, in my opinion, in a positive light as far as the free agency pool goes to. Do you think he stays, or do you think he's going to find a greener pasture after this 1 year? Does number one stay for year 2 in Washington?
I'd like to see him back. I think they'd like to see him back. Hard to tell with a guy like him because who knows what another team will offer him, and he hasn't gotten a payday yet. So, if he could find somebody to give him $3 or $4 million a year, Washington may not be into it. Maybe Dax Milne is ready to kind of take over that role next year and do the punt return duties. I could get that. Again, I think they probably are trying, and I can understand why, because he had a great year.
Yeah. Hopefully we can have the same answer on these two. If not, we can just end the stream. Troy Apke, John Bostic.
Well, Apke, I'm sure, will be gone. Although, who knows, depending on – it's funny because if the contract's right, all he's doing is playing special teams anyway. So, if he takes some little tiny – DeShazer Everett's, I'm sure, not coming back. So, if he just kind of takes over the DeShazer role, then that's fine. I don't want him playing corner or safety on my team, but if they want him, as the special team ace, that's fine. And then who was the other guy you said there?
Mr. Cryptocurrency or whatever he does there, Mr. Financial Advisor, John Bostic.
I hope they are trying to upgrade from Bostic, because I had hoped that they were trying to upgrade from him last year. So, but you can see that they were happy with Mayo in. They just needed somebody serviceable in at middle linebacker. But I guess they're going to take a big swing at middle linebacker too, they say.
Yeah. My thing is with this linebacker situation, it's been porous since Jack and Ron got here.
Right.
And arguably
2 linebackers.
Yeah, they're linebackers. And then what is Steve Russ doing? If you have a problem with these guys at linebackers, you think you'd ask your defensive boss or your head coach, hey, you want to come in here and talk to these cats and figure out what's going on? I'll be honest with you, Doug, the best linebacker that I think over the last couple of years, not named Cole Holcomb, was Kevin Pierre-Louis that first year.
Right.
I thought he proved that he was probably the best one. If you had matched him up with Cole Holcomb, maybe you don't have these problems that you had in 2001. Maybe you let the wrong guy get away in that situation. But like I said, everything's 2020 is hindsight in that fact. But I just thought that's bad. If we have linebackers running 2 major parts of this team, you got more problems if you can't get that right. My gosh,
it's been frustrating.
Yeah. Let's see here. I've got J.D. McKissick on this, and if the injury clears out, which we haven't heard too much for him, I think this would be a guy that you got to bring him back, don't you? Especially the offense seemed like it ran a whole lot better when he was in there.
Another guy that I know they want back and have, I believe, have already had talks with about. But again, that may be a guy that boosted a stock and sees a bigger payday. And can find some extra money somewhere. Hopefully, he'll give them a little credit for help resurrecting his career. Because I remember talking to a running back guru 2 years ago that had thought that he would not be in the league when Washington gave him a job.
Yeah.
And to see where he's come now, kudos to him. Definitely that third down back is
key.
Yeah.
And we saw, and like I said, we saw what happened. This team won 2 games down the stretch, most pivotal part of the year. They beat Seattle, and then they beat the Giants. Well, excuse me, no, they beat the Raiders, and then they beat the Giants. So sandwich in, but JD McKissick wasn't in that equation there, and we saw how putrid this offense was. Wide receivers, Adam Humphries, Cam Sims. What do you think about those two cats? Do you think Sims is going to go finally just say I've had enough and walk off and Mr. Third Down conversion? Do you think he needs to come back for a year 2 here, even though Fitzpatrick probably won't be back?
I mean, I was not a fan of the Humphries hiring last year, so I would not be mad if he's not back this year.
Okay, cool.
I have always been a Cam Sims fan, but to your point, he may be tired of being here and could use a fresh start because they refused to use him, so I could see why he didn't want to be back.
Yeah, and I mean, do you from people you've talked to, is there any inkling why they don't want to play him? Like, is it just because in the context of the system? Is he?
I asked Nikki Javala that a month ago, and she said it's the one thing that stoops most of the people that follow this team because when he's in, he makes catches and he plays well. You can see him when he's in there making contested catches, and for whatever the reason is, just cannot find himself a stable position on the team. So, it would not surprise me if he was trying to find somewhere that will give him some more targets.
Yeah, I just it blows my mind on that guy. Do we keep our swing tackle here, Cornelius Lucas? I think he's going to cash in.
I think he'll cash in.
Payment.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. I think I've kind of been told that most people around the organization feel like he'll get some money somewhere.
Tim Settle, does he come back? Local kid.
Yeah, I'd like Timmy back. Again, this is like one of those things that to pay Deshawn Payne, then he's obviously not coming back. I think Ioannidis has 2 years left on his deal. But again, it may not be one of those things where Settle wants back, right? I mean, he should be starting somewhere, so I can understand if he's not interested in, like a part-time role on this team.
Yeah. Pretty Ricky Seals Jones, who
big fan. I definitely want him back.
You want him back there. I liked him. I think his worst play was when he ran into the camera guy, and then he had that hellacious catch against the Giants at FedEx Field in week 2. So
I don't want him back if it stunts your guys' growth. Bates, who I think has a lot more potential than I think maybe they thought. Definitely what the fan base thought.
Okay, and one last one I'll give you here, and then I'll ask you we'll give out some grades from last year too. The last one, Bobby McCain went from yelling to the media to improving probably a little bit in December. They want him back. It's from the sounds of it. Does he come back, and would you bring him back?
I think Bobby McCain comes back if all the other options aren't available. I think they know what they got in Bobby. I think he won't cost a ton, but I think like a couple of spots on this team, they're probably looking around thinking, well, we could do better than Bobby, right? So I think they would be comfortable bringing him back. I think they're probably looking for an upgrade.
All right. Well, no, they need to upgrade on everything on that defense.
Sure.
To be fair.
That's right.
So I'll give you some superlatives here for last year, rather than grades. Your biggest disappointment last year for Washington. We'll start on negative.
I'd say the coaching staff, particularly the defensive coaching staff, gets it from me. I mean, we did not eye Jamin Davis and get him into the proper spot. It took all of this year, if not actually a year and a half, for Landon Collins. I didn't see it. I didn't see what was going on. That unit to me of this coaching staff stayed being reactive instead of proactive. And you're never going to win anything with that philosophy. So to me, that was the biggest bummer to me, is that I just didn't see what the plan was on defense.
And outside of his loyalty, are you surprised that Ron didn't make any maybe adjustments to his coaching staff?
Not one. He didn't make one change.
Yeah, he didn't
And
make one.
I asked people around the team, were changes coming? No, I don't think that they think that's what it is.
Huh. Interesting. I just found like, especially you kind of look back at his time in Carolina, and they had to force out those guys like Brady Hoke and everything during that what was it, when the NFL came in there and did it for Amazon Prime. So it's not really surprising they hadn't given up, but I would think like, maybe Steve Rush was a guy that was kind of maybe penciled him like, hey, this ain't getting right. This is not what we believe in. And he had only been there a couple of years with him. I think maybe a year with them in Carolina before coming to Washington. So I thought that would have been a little bit more interesting. Who was your biggest, who was your bright spot last year?
Who's my bright spot last year? Well, Cam Curl always impresses. I thought, Logan Thomas was a revelation. If he hadn't got hurt, I mean, he was on his way. So I liked him. I know that's kind of a couple of guys. And then, I don't know, can we just lump the whole offensive line together?
Yes.
We were on the fifth center.
Yep.
Fifth center. I remember when the first center went down, when Roulier went down, I looked at my wife and said, this is going to be a problem. When the second center went down, I said, oh boy, we got to 5. We got to 5. So I don't know. I feel like Masco and the offensive line, maybe that's the brightest spot in reality, because kudos to them. Because really, I mean, how many sacks were being given up by that unit? Not just that they were good in the run game, but they kept Taylor pretty clean.
Yeah, they did. They, for the most part, him holding on to the ball a little bit longer than probably he should have.
Back up right tackle, back up right guard, back up center. I mean,
I think you got a point there. Yeah. Rookie of the year.
Well, yeah, I mean, this one seems like a no-brainer, right? I think John Bates gets that award for me. I think it probably was the right tackle.
Cosby,
yeah, he looked great, but he just couldn't stay healthy. So, I mean, I'm trying to think of what other guys actually got onto the field. St. Jude started off hot, but didn't end up that way. We hope that the concussions aren't going to be a long-term thing. Obviously, it wasn't Jamin Davis. It obviously wasn't the kid from North Carolina. So, I mean, you start whittling the options down, and it's kind of John Bates. And then that's not a knock on his year either, because I really thought he had a sneaky good year.
He did towards the end, towards the back end of that.
When he started getting playing time.
Yeah, he was good. I mean, you think about that catch he had against Dallas too, that got him down there, and how he scored his first touchdown. So, and then you think about it, he's probably a pass interference call away against Philadelphia at home of maybe extending that game or even winning that game. So, hey, there you go, right there with those cats. I would be surprised, no love for Cameron Cheeseman.
He deserves it. Hey, he actually had a really good year. So you're right. Funny you say that, but he had a really good year. Maybe it's the cheese man.
Yeah, maybe it is. And then but wait, seriously, thinking about Cameron Cheeseman, he had to learn 4 different kickers, from Dustin Hopkins to Chris Blewett to Joey Sly to Brian Johnson.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, he still, but thank goodness the one consistency was the true MVP of this team, Tressway. But since we don't give it to punters because punters aren't people, right? Who would have been your most valuable player on the Burgundy and Gold back in for the 2021 season?
I think it was Jonathan Allen. I mean, he was a revelation. I mean, I didn't think he had that get off and burst. So whatever he did in the offseason, I hope he does it again this year.
Yes.
And gets faster. I mean, Chris Baker told us he's probably in the top 5 DNs in the league right now, or D tackles rather. So I think it was him. I mean, he was in both phases of the game, the run and the pass. So I think that's a safe one for me.
Yeah, that's that is a good one. I would even say, I'd argue, could we say he would have been the most improved player just from the level of fear that he put in opposing offenses last year? Like he was a problem. Like, I mean, he ate up double teams. He went in there. Our boy Nadi from DMV Sports Zone, he'd say he's probably the best defense player we've had over the last 2 years. Think that begged to differ in that situation. But I mean, it's kind of hard not to give him an MVP and maybe a most improved player. I just think because he was a blip on the radar. Like, not saying he wasn't playing at a high level. He was just,
Last year, put like this. Last year, the fan base was having this conversation about Deshawn Payne, not Jonathan Allen. You remember John Allen was the tradable commodity, and everybody assumed that Deshawn Payne had the bigger ceiling. I'm not saying that's not still true because I'm a huge Deshawn Payne guy, but you would not. Nobody's saying that after this year, right? Like everybody's saying, "Wow, Jonathan Allen is a stud," and we didn't see it coming. So maybe he is the most improved. Also,
there you go. Hey, man, I like it. Doug, I will tell you this. You mentioned kind of your interviews, the last couple ones. You mentioned your interview with Pierre and Chris was, and you had
those guys are hilarious.
Oh my goodness, that was awesome. I got to sit and watch it the whole time, and then even the insightfulness of Nikki Giavala as well.
She's the best.
Yeah, she was excellent, man. What projects do you have coming up as we get ready to close this one out here?
Well, we got Pooh and Swaggy come on every Monday, and we try to mix in, some players maybe that Swaggy knows, or that the team sends, or guys from the local radios we like to have on. We're going to start on Fridays. We'll switch up a little bit, and I think we're going to try to get more fan podcasters on to do that one. And then on Wednesdays, we've been doing the scouting notebook with me and Nate Coleman have been hosting that one, which is a ton of fun. And we've been bringing in draft gurus, as they say, to get us ready for the combine.
So, the combine is coming up here. What is it next? Is it next week?
It's quick. Yeah, it's coming up fast. Like free agency starts around the corner, and then the combine's like in 2 weeks. Maybe it's even next week. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, before we go, even wrap that up, man. Give me a free agent to look out for this team.
A free agent?
Yeah. Who's the guy that's like, you think, hey, their contracts run up, they're going to be.
There's a middle linebacker, Olaquanye. I'm sure I have
from Atlanta.
Butchered that. Yes, but I think he's like 25, 26 years old. They are in salary cap purgatory, so I don't think that they're going to be. So that would be if they talk, because again, Ron talks about taking a big swing at middle linebacker. I mean,
there you go.
He's the only one I can think of that would constitute a big swing. So maybe him, maybe like a Mike Williams from the Chargers, if they want to add receiver that way. I could see them being in on a guy like that. And then, more of the same. Again, if a guy like John Bates doesn't get franchise tag in Cincinnati, which I can't imagine why they wouldn't want to keep him around, but that's a true deep free safety. So maybe that's how would they look at something like that. So those are a couple of names, but that middle linebacker I think's got wheels.
Yeah, I think he's an Ivy Leaguer too. And you don't really think of guys who are that tough of being from the Ivy League. No knock to those cats, but these are your future scientists of America.
Right. And they're usually smart enough to not bang their heads against each other for a decade.
Right. And this cat is doing it. So no, I know exactly what you're talking about. So I think he would be a good one. I said even if they went on a cheap option too, maybe looking at Anthony Hitchens, maybe see you got an old cowboy coming back to Washington.
To your point, I'd prefer Dean at 11.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Oh, 110%. I would go with Nakobe Dean, and there is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Yep. If you got pick 11, which that's still technically in limbo right now because we don't really know with the quarterback situation. Sure. So but we'll see. At the end of the day, it's a long way to April. Heck, it's a long day until the new year, but it's still right around the corner though. It's right around the corner. It seems so
well, it's interesting because they had the extra game, right? So it's like the league actually the league year extends it a week, and so we're closer than ever.
Yeah, I mean, so we'll be able to drink ourselves to death because I think that's the St. Patrick's Day holiday. So, I think it's on the weekend this year. So it's gonna be a little rough here, and we'll all be here to cover it and give our opinions about it. But Doug, man, I appreciate you coming on here, spending an hour with us. And y'all go check out the Big Doug Show. This man does it right. He does it good. And he always has some entertaining guests on there. Y'all gotta go check out Monday's episode. Him, George Carmi, Pierre Garcon.
When Chris Baker told us about the first time 13K ever went in the pot, and he lost all the face, I was laughing.
How cheap is Pierre Garcon? See, this might be my clip on that. How cheap is Pierre Garcon that he can't get Sunday ticket? He said, I can't watch any Washington games. He's like, they only get Tampa and all these guys. I said, what?
I totally thought about that in the moment. That he could only get, because I got the ticket, right? Like I paid for the ticket so I can get the games out of market. No, it's like, but you know what's funny? It's just a reminder that just because some guys are good at football doesn't mean that like you can tell he'd rather be fishing than watching football.
Hey, that's all right. That's all right. Mr. Spinfire Pizza himself doesn't have the ticket, but that was a good one though. Yeah, but 13. What was that game they called it? The card game.
Boo-ray. And it's funny. I thought I had heard all the gambling games because I love to gamble, and that's a new one by me. But he was saying that's the game that got Gilbert all mad as they took the pistole with him into the locker room that year. Was over 40 or 50 grand in Boo-ray winnings.
Oh my gosh, that's insane. But y'all, Doug, appreciate it again. Big Doug, y'all check him out. Big Douglas Show on here. It's actually tagged in the title, so you can go and click on it. All his social media links are down there as well. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, he's got a show. You go check it out. You can also check it out on Facebook as well, and enjoy some good banter on Twitter with him. As the crest is correct, this episode is correct. So again, for Big Doug, Sanchez 405, y'all keep that same damn energy. We outlast the bastards together. And till the next time, y'all, love, peace, and hail. Somebody go out and get my theme music as we close this one out. There we go. We out.